Hi, welcome to the Sapphic World Book Club.
Thank you, Cass. Happy to be here.
Well, we have been talking about this book, of course, Dream Me a Little Dream, and a few other bits and pieces because you have like a huge oeuvre. So we couldn't just talk about this book. I hope you're
That's
okay with
fine.
that. You're okay with that.
Of course.
I'm recording on my computer, so I have a speaker view. I cannot see anything else, but Jamie is my co-host, and Jess
Right.
is also here, and she will be looking to see everything is going okay. We've asked
Sounds great.
everyone to mute their mics and they can ask questions to you in the chat to Jamie or me, and we will ask the questions for them.
Love it.
How's your day going so far?
I'm not going to complain about today. It's been rather nice, kind of a slower pace Saturday. Sometimes you have a whole lot of things, but not today. I got some work done, and now I get to come and talk about books. So no complaints.
What else would you want on a Saturday?
I'm telling you, yeah.
That's true. Okay, so let's get into it. We have a lot of questions that people put into the form when they signed up, so we're going to start with
Okay,
those.
sure.
Let's talk about this book in particular. So,
Yeah.
Dream a Little Dream is set in Dreamer's Bay. Why did you want to return to that location? Louise is asked.
Well, it's interesting. The story came to me before the setting. In other words, if we flash back in time, I think 2013 is when I put out Beautiful Dreamer, which was the book that first took place in Dreamer's Bay. But when I was conceiving of this particular book, a character and plot came to me first, kind of the external conflict, when you're stood up on a big, monumental day, and then how that kind of triggers whatever internal conflict a person might be wrestling with. So I had all of those details. And it wasn't until I think I'd written a little bit, I'd already started writing the book when I thought, this is, a small town. Do I want to go with somewhere new, which is what I had started off with, or does this feel germane to somewhere I've already been? And I don't know why, but I connected back to 2013 in that book. And I thought, you know what? That's a really good fit. And I knew she was already working at a grocery store when I was writing the book. But then I had to go back and figure out, had I already established a grocery store in Beautiful Dreamer? And so I'm going through the book trying, oh, I had. And then of course we run with Fiesta Foods that then becomes what I needed it to become in the story. So it was really, a series of happy events that brought me there. And then shortly after, I was already probably three-fourths of the way through the book. I did kind of an audit of my backlist and just to see how they were all doing. And of my backlist, that is the most consistently sold. It's not my highest seller, but it's consistently hitting its number every quarter. And I thought, well, that awesome. That's not a bad marketing move either because it seems to still be selling that original book. So it felt like the stars aligned for it to find its home in Dreamers Bay.
And we were talking about, of course, about story, and one of the questions that divided the group was, would you have waited a year with no contact, no texting, no Insta stalking, nothing in
Me
this
personally.
2025?
No, no. I mean, who would? Let's be honest, who would? Unless you're a diehard. I could see a few diehard romantics doing that, but let's be honest, they would be in the minority. And that is what is so wonderful about TV, film, and books and theater, is that you can take the extraordinary and put it into a story in front of us, and we suspend a little bit of disbelief for the whimsy and the poetic nature of the romance. I always, when I'm writing a book, I always say to myself, if it's feeling a little mundane, Melissa, why is this a book? Why would anybody just read about these? These people could be my neighbors. There needs to be something fantastical about it that makes it feel like elevated above real life. And then that's where the suspension of disbelief comes in. And it's fun to read about things that you wouldn't necessarily encounter in the real world. Yet, I do appreciate being able to identify with the character because that goes a long way into keeping someone engaged and turning the page. So I think for me, it's a mixture of seeing how far you can push it to make it a book and outside of real life that we have an escape and something different. But at the same time, we want to be anchored and grounded and united with the character as human beings who live on Earth.
Yeah, I would love to go shopping at that store, by the way. That would be so
Oh,
fun.
at the grocery store.
Yeah. I mean,
I like
not
the
on the day that
the new
that the
stuff she
boss is
did.
there.
No, no, definitely don't want to be there when he's there in his windsuit.
True. Jamie, you got another question?
Yeah, let's see. I'm looking at the list.
Hi, Jamie.
Hi, Melissa. Thank you for being here. Welcome.
Thank you.
The question is, if romance didn't exist as a genre, what would you write?
Probably, probably general fiction. I love a good intrigue, a mystery. I'll even read a horror or a thriller. I like a good biography. I grew up reading biographies. And I don't want to discount myself in any way. I hate doing that. And I always tell people not to. I don't think that I'm cut out for the plotting it takes to write some of those more intricate plots. There's also the problem that I'm a pantser, meaning I fly by the seat of my pants when I write a book. I'm often figuring out what's going to happen next in the moment. And I think if you're writing a mystery, a thriller, anything with a complicated reveal at the end, you have to lay those breadcrumbs early and you have to kind of know where you're going. And I'm really bad at that. So I think self-awareness is good. I know my limits. Um, and I'd be so sad if romance didn't exist because it's such a passion of mine. I was stealing my older sister's Danielle Steele novels out of her bedroom when I was 12 and running to the bathroom and locking the door and reading as much as I could before I would hear footsteps on the stairs and run and put the book back. So I'm a diehard romance reader as well as a writer. So I think if the genre didn't exist, I'd be a lot less happy of a person, I think.
Um,
Great.
go.
I was just gonna, do you have a comment? So I was gonna ask another question. Go for it. No,
We're plowing on.
we're plowing on because yeah, we do have quite a few questions for you.
We'll do it.
And I haven't had time to like sync them up in my brain. So good luck with that. Just go with me here. So the next one I'm looking at is from Claire Ashton, and she said, "I always love to
Oh,
hear."
Take's here.
Yeah. I always love to hear which of their books and author is proudest of, loves most, and with romances, which couple they're still smitten with.
Oh, I think the book that I'm most proud of is Strawberry Summer.
Mm.
I don't go back over my work a lot. When I was a new writer, I would pick up the books a lot. Like I was just so in disbelief that they were in existence that, with Waiting in the Wings and those first few books, I would pick them up and kind of read a scene here or there. But I don't do that as much anymore. Um, but once in a while I will, and that is one that when I read a scene, it makes me proud. I like who those characters were. I like that they go on a longer journey, and I'm very proud of their story. And it's not my bestseller, but it's towards the top. It does pretty well, and so I think the readership appreciates it. I'm really proud of Hunter and Sam from Just Three Words. I like how different they were. I like how they kind of came together. Friends to lovers is not. If you ask people what's your favorite trope, friends to lovers is not one that comes out of people's mouths first a whole lot. Now there is a small group that champions it, and other people, like it further down their list of favorites, but it's not towards the top. So I wondered about that book, but it's probably the favorite couple that I've written from the readership, and getting to see them through their eyes, I think does a lot for me. But I wrote kind of my dream couple when I wrote Waiting in the Wings. In other words, I didn't know that I would ever go on to write more books. I thought Waiting in the Wings was kind of a passion project of mine on a summer break from teaching. And I put everything I would ever want to see or read in a romance novel into that book. So it would be kind of hard to top that couple. So if I could include them as well, even though that's kind of the default for me. So I say Hunter and Sam to this question, but it's probably Jenna and Adrian as well.
Okay, thank you.
I hope that answers the question for my good friend Tick.
Do you ever run out of ideas? I mean, of course, you write with Bolstroke Books and you publish three a year?
Yeah, I did write with Bold Strokes. I'm indie now. I don't
Oh,
know if you knew.
really? Wow,
Yeah.
congratulations.
Thank you. So I'll have my September book will be from me, and
Oh,
so
wow.
you'll see that
Congrats.
shortly.
That's news. You've heard it here
Yes,
first.
it's big news. I don't plan to take out like any, banner advertisements, but I am talking about it casually because it's exciting for me. And I'm somebody who loves to have, lots of buttons to play with. And I think when you're an indie author, you get to make a lot of fun choices and nothing but the best things to say about my friends at Bold Strokes Books who were so great to me and wonderful. And I have the highest respect for them. So we are on fantastic terms. But yes, I am setting off into the world on my own now. And that book is almost finished. So I'm excited. And I forgot
So
the original question.
the original question was, do you ever run out of ideas?
Oh,
The
yeah.
question was like, you have, of course, you have. I mean, you've been writing with Wallstrokes Books, and there is a
Yeah,
brand, Melissa Brayden brand. So
sure.
actually, one of my questions was, would you ever go indie? So there you
I
go.
would, Cass. I
There you
would.
go. There you go. I'm feeling a level here. So
Yeah,
is
yeah.
there gonna be like a minor change to what you've been doing? Will there be like things that maybe you said you wanted to push a little button, so
I think you're going to notice some minor changes. And I would not want to insinuate that having a publisher, or even that publisher, there were certain rules or requirements. I was never pushed to write a certain amount. I was never pushed to, and you hear certain publishers want, X amount of sex scenes included, and there's all sorts of fun rumors out there that I always found to be untrue. But I do think that there might be some subtle changes that you'll see. Definitely in packaging. I have some ideas about book covers and the feel and the size of books, things like that, aesthetics will change. I found myself, and this has nothing to do with publisher versus not, but there is a sense of a metamorphosis, and I find myself using words in this book in some of the sex scenes that I have not used in 20 years. So I'm like, okay, you're going there. Is that what's that from, Melissa? Where's that coming from? So I don't know, but you
I-
might see a little bit more of a racy side in this next book.
I mean, there have been some telepathically, I don't know what's happening here in the universe because we were talking about the
Oh, were you?
non-explicitness of your sex scenes. And we were wondering, I mean, I've seen that I've read all the books. So I've
Hmm.
seen like a little progression, and I was like surprised with this one. That was like, okay, going there, right? But I
Oh,
mean,
early on.
no, well, not before. Like the first books were not as explicit,
Oh.
and the last one was more, in my opinion.
Hmm.
But then, I mean, the last few years there have been so many Sapphic books with very explicit content. So it was like, okay, will she use that more? Will she use particular words more?
I think so. I think a little bit. And I don't know why that is, but it just feels like I'm in a new spot. And I'm noticing it in this book that I'm currently writing that I'm going. Now, I don't want to lead you astray and think that, I'm suddenly going to be writing erotica or anything like that, but I do notice that I'm pushing the envelope a little bit more.
Are there authors that you look up to or do you that you read and you're like, "Oh my God, this is I would have loved to have written this."
Oh, so many. We were just talking about Claire Ashton. It is definitely one of. In the early days, it was Jerry Hill pulled me in initially, and I was very impressed with that. You know, Melina McKay. It's McKay. Did I say it wrong?
Okay.
I'm reading Allie North right now. Have you read Bloomtown? I'm very impressed with Allie, and as I'm reading it, and it's just some of her poetic language, I'm very jealous. If you haven't read Bloomtown, definitely pick it up. It's nominated for some Goldies, so you might see it win some. I wouldn't be surprised. My good friend Georgia Beers, who I was a reader of before she was my friend, is someone that I very much admire. Kristen Higgins, who writes straight books, is one of the ones that kind of let me know that romance novels could be funny. I never quite realized that till I started reading her books and was like, oh, this is rom-com-y. This is kind of my personality. Oh, we can do this in romance? Because it came up on, Danielle Steele, which was like heavy angst. Um, so, and one of the things I kind of miss now that I have children is the ability to like tear through a book in a couple days. Like I used to even before I was writing, when I found Sapphic books, there weren't that many, but I was racing through them, and it was like I just couldn't consume enough, and it's slowed down quite a bit. And not only that, there are more books out there, so it's very frustrating for me as a reader to see all these wonderful books that I just want to jump into, and know that I have to like create a list and go slowly through them. So these kids
It's
need
the
to hurry up and
worst.
grow up. They got to grow up, these kids, so I can get back to my books.
Preaching to the choir, preaching to the choir. I'm like, shut up, I'm reading.
Well, you really do. It's like, okay, I have 20 minutes. Or if I go to the bus stop, I was carrying Bloomtown with me to the bus stop. And maybe I'll get 2 pages read before that bus shows up. It is worth it, to get your 2 pages in.
That's true. Jamie, you have another question?
Yeah, I wanted to circle back to the release that's coming up in September.
Mhm.
Can you give us the title, or are you not doing that yet?
Yes, I can. It's called Can We Skip to the Good Part?
Ooh,
And it's about Ella Baker, who in our very first scene, is fired unceremoniously from her job. In fact, they have her on Zoom and they forgot to fire her when the layoffs happened. They forgot she kind of even existed. And so she's fired as an afterthought, which is even more brutal. And she's gone through some things. She was broken up with by a fiance 6 days before their wedding. Her parents are gallivanting in Europe and barely think of her. So she's feeling like a secondary character. And she's chatting with her best friend who suggests, you know what? This is the time. I've been trying to get you to move here. Come, let's do this. And so she moves across the country from Oklahoma to Virginia to a fictional town called Everly Springs, which is kind of DC adjacent. And, wanting to reinvent herself and to kind of take back her life, and decides on a whim when she's in a bookshop, she sees an advertisement for a book club. Ta-da, we're at a book club today. And she decides to attend the book club meeting, and she gets the book written by Parker Bristow. Shout out back to September readers. And attends the book club, and there is a woman there, and she is an attorney, and she's beautiful, and she seems to be kind of the leader in the room, and just everything in Ella is attracted to this woman. And not only that, it seems to be mutual, and they're hitting it off. And unfortunately, she finds out that this is the ex of the best friend who brought her to town and who she is currently living with. And I'll leave it there. That's the premise, and then the book takes off from there.
love it. That sounds really good.
Mm.
Sounds really
It's
good.
a book club romance.
Yeah, perfect. Perfect. I have a question from Boz about, do you do any research for your books? Or if so, how much is involved?
I'll be honest, I don't love research. I'd much rather be writing witty banter and jokes. But yes, I do. And certain subject matters lend themselves to research. If I can get away with like, oh, I don't want to research this. I'm going to make this town fictional, kind of like what I just said. I will do that. I will skirt every research corner I can. But sometimes you can't do that. And sometimes the subject matter you're choosing to tackle it's something too many people know about. So I would say if I look at books like First Position, where it was ballet themed, there was a ton of research. I remember I probably spent weeks just immersing myself in any kind of media I could get my hands on from a first person perspective of somebody who danced with the New York City Ballet and kind of what they went through, or somebody who went to a school of ballet, and what those classes were like, and what the rigor entailed, and how you laced the shoes, and how you sent away for the shoes from the shoemaker in the certain country and waited so many weeks for them to come back. I mean, those little details, you'll never include all of them, but they add texture, just you having them in your brain, just the little tiny details you would drop create that backdrop and make it feel a lot more real. I'll say the hardest book that I've ever had to research was Sparks Like Ours, which was the surfing book in the Seven Shores series. I I committed to writing that book, and we developed the cover. We publicized the cover before the book was ever even really a scene was ever even written from it. So once I started the research, there was a moment of, oh, what have I done? What have I done? Because surfing, I'd seen it, I'd watched surfing casually, but I'd never really picked up on the culture and understood how the competitions work. And it's like learning another language. It is so specific. It's not like researching baseball. There's so much more to it. Um, so I was very daunted and overwhelmed. And so I think I did it justice because the feedback from real I got a message from a surfer this week who enjoyed the book. So I hope it went okay. I'm about to start researching the next book, which I'm going to start writing this next month, which I think is going to be a Formula One race car driver book. So I'm it's going to be rough researching all the women drivers of Formula One, but somebody's got to do it.
So tough, so tough. I just really
I
feel you.
It's
volunteer.
rough. It's rough.
I volunteer. I will.
You're in.
I'll
You're
help you.
in.
Fine. Let me Google. If your main character from this book, Dream a Little Dream, had a playlist, what would be their anthem?
Oh, that's going to be a hard one. I'm so bad at those very specific questions. So, Savannah, I see that. What's that? I Cry Out Loud song. She's left so often. Don't Cry Out Loud. Was that Melissa Manchester from the 70s? She's had such a rough time, and her internal conflict is so rooted in being left and all of these people, whether it's her parents, her aunt, her best friend, and then Kyle at the bridge, she's consistently left. And so I think we find somebody who's just really learned to live with grief. So it would probably be one of those really depressing songs that we all turn on and head to the corner and put our headphones on and bury ourselves in our sadness. So something to that effect. Maybe one of Taylor Swift's really depressing songs. She had a couple albums that were a little dark.
About that, because so this book is only has Savannah's point of view. Would you write an epilogue or maybe a sequel with Kyle's point of view, like Melina Mackay did with
It was
Mistress?
brilliant, right? Well, especially if the book does really well, I mean, you know that there's enough interest there that people would pick it up. It's not something that I would ever rule out, but it might be something that's more suited for either a follow-up short story that's a flash forward to the future or a sliver of the book in a short story form where we show this portion from Kyle's point of view, and then that can be something that, goes into an anthology at some point. I'm playing around with that idea of past character short story anthology, or possibly like a Patreon offering, something like that. I know Mila's done some of that on hers as well. But I'm not ruling it out. I, as a reader, love a first person point of view, but it's polarizing. There are people out there who can be your biggest fan, your biggest reader, but if you're going to put out a first person book, they're going to skip that one and come back when you're back to third person. And then there are diehards out there who only will consume, they're flitting around to the different authors who do first person. I love it because I feel it's a little bit like a choose your own adventure because we only know what Savannah knows. So there is some mystery involved. Or why wasn't Kyle on that bridge? Let me turn the page to figure out why. What in the world? This was her idea. What in the world could have kept her away after all of this
And
time?
what
And I
and what
like,
made her run the second time?
yeah.
That was a
Are you asking
thing.
me? Yeah, you would have.
Oh,
Well, yeah.
well, I wasn't the one asking, but
It's that wound. It's that wound. She no longer trusted herself. And when she got thrown back into that trauma, she was right back there again, and that distrust and that pressure, and she crumbled. She wasn't ready for it yet. So it wasn't anything personal about Savannah. I think that's an internal wound that
needed
Kyle was
her.
dealing with.
Savannah needed her
Mhm.
at that point.
She needed her. Yes, we were supposed to be mad at Kyle, rightfully so.
So mad at Kyle.
Very
Good.
mad at Kyle.
Good.
I was rooting for MJ. I was not the most popular opinion in book club, but I was like, let's just go with MJ.
Somebody did write to me and asked if she could have her own. I think more than one person has written to me asking if we could have an MJ book at some time. Usually when you introduce a character as a potential love interest that doesn't happen, unless you villainize them, you will get emails asking for their story. I think the one I get the most emails for, and she wasn't a potential love interest, so maybe a bad example, is Melanie from Strawberry Summer. She starts off as the villain early in the book, and then later in the book graduates to friend, and she comes out and we find out she's searching for love herself. And so I get a lot of people asking for her story. But it would
Would
be fun to
you
gather up all the people who need stories and figure it out.
just put them together?
Yeah.
So
Melanie, have you met MJ?
Right
could
there.
you still do
There you
that
go.
if you're now going indie? Could you still
Yes, I
use
can.
the
I have
characters? Because they're yours?
Yes, the characters are mine. I can use them in any
Okay.
way I want. Settings are all mine. Everything's all mine.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah. And I think that would be encouraged. I think they would love that for me to continue using it because then it just bumps the backlist.
True.
Cool.
Hmm.
I'm mindful of the time. Do you have a few more minutes? Because we have a lot
I
more
do.
questions.
I do. Yeah, I'm free.
Okay, cool. If you need to go and you have other plans today, thank you for joining us. It's not rude to just leave, and you can watch the whole thing on YouTube later, but
We
we'll
will forgive you.
we'll forgive you. It's fine.
We will forgive you. We will not hunt you down.
Maybe. Um, witty banter, you've already mentioned it, it's one of your main things. It's your brand.
Yeah.
Have you ever written something that you were like, okay, so this is just not funny.
I
It's
feel
not.
like Dream a Little Dream was not as funny. I felt like I pulled back a little bit on not intentionally. It's just sometimes the characters aren't real like wacky and zany, and sometimes you can get that from a Jonathan type or who kind of comes in. But I think they're playful with each other, but I don't think we have like a quirky main. When I say main, I mean like main character in Dream a Little Dream. And a lot of times when you have like a friend group, really at Seven Shores, you'll have a Hadley type who can insert a lot of humor because she's written to be the quirky, fun one. But I think in this particular book, there's banter, but it doesn't go as far.
But her
And some
internal
people,
dialogue, her internal monologue, sorry, is really funny.
oh, good. Well, I didn't know that.
I
I
thought
will
so.
take it. I
Maybe,
will take that.
it's an
I
unpopular opinion.
I like it to be funny. I know there are some readers that, I read reviews, so I can see what the people like and what they don't like. And there are definitely factions. They're like, okay, Melissa needs to tone the banter down now. It's a lot. And then of course, if I do that, the larger group who kind of follow me from book to book, they get upset by it. So you just got to do your own thing. You can't please everyone. I like the banter. I'm going to keep with it.
I mean, you read reviews. So
Yeah,
I've heard a lot of authors say I do not read reviews, or I have someone,
most.
yeah, I have
Yeah, most
someone
don't
that
read
reads
them.
them first and just sends me the good
Mhm.
ones. How do you deal with that if it's like not as good?
Well, I don't like it, and I obviously, have the choice to not read it. But I think I'm somebody who is confident in myself. I do think I have a thick skin. Sometimes they hurt my feelings, but I think that's part of this job. I also come from a theater background, and there's a lot of criticism in theater. Sometimes, you'll have someone critique a show that you've directed in front of the audience, in front of you. I mean, I've been through that multiple times. And so I do think that prepared me for reviews, but I'm looking for commonalities. If every single person is saying, I love this book except for the ending, then that's something that I can take home with me and learn from if it's a consistent message. Um, Sometimes I completely agree. Sometimes they say things that I did not see in the moment, but wish I had done differently. As long as they're done respectfully, I'm good with a critical review. There are times when you can tell they are trying to be snarky to please their readership and make them laugh, and that can be hurtful. And then I try to remind myself, this was not written for you. You're not even supposed to be here right now. This review was written for the readers. And if you choose to come into their space, you have to be ready for what it is that you get. I wish they wouldn't, keep the personal portion of it out. But what can you do? I try to learn what I can from reviews, and I'd like to know which books are well received and which ones aren't, so that I can continue to grow myself as a writer as I move forward. So
Have you
I
ever made
stick it out.
a choice while writing, like I would really want to do this in this story, but then you think back about all the comments and whatever, and you think like, well, the readers would probably not like it, so I won't.
Yeah, I think a lot. And sometimes I tell myself to stop to write for myself because that's when I think I'm most successful. And then other times I find myself listening to them. I am a bisexual author who came into the space early. I think the
Mhm.
waters are a little more welcoming now to the bisexual authors. But back in 2010, 2011, when I was writing my first book, a lot of people did not want me around. And so when I look at a book like Marry Me, I wanted to write that where Allie is Mary is engaged and getting married to a man, and then she meets her wedding planner who she falls for. So that becomes a triangle that involves a man. And so I put that book off for a while because I had a little PTSD about how things were going, from 15 years ago. I forget that the climate's a little bit better. So I was, oh, I can't write that. If there's a man in the mix, nobody's going to want to read that. I kind of at one point just had to get out of my own way and say, this is not their love story. It's the love story between two women. And that's ultimately it. But there was a sense of, I was so touchy about having any kind of male character in there at all that people would be turned off by or upset at me by or want to expel me from the community. You kind of want to walk the walk as much as you can. And so I found myself, letting the readership or the reviews, and you read a lot of reviews about yourself personally. There was a period of years where I was referred to on Goodreads by a faction of reviewers as that by slut, and I would read that a lot, and that that gets into your head. So I think Marry Me got delayed for that very reason you were asking.
Wow.
Yeah,
That's
it's better
yeah.
now, but it was bad for a while. My email inbox was not a fun place.
Have you ever had a point in your life that you were like, okay, fuck it, I'll just write hetero stuff?
You would think, but no, I was never really called to write that. I think we're all kind of here put on a path of where we're supposed to be. And I think I'm on my path. And I think I've always felt that I'm on my path. They just didn't realize it. And I had to tell myself that they don't get that this is your path. You get it. So keep walking. That's what I would tell myself. Either Melissa, take your hand off the stove, or Melissa, keep walking. Write the next book. Keep walking. People, you can't control people. You just be nice back. That's what I say. You just be
Yeah.
nice back.
Kill him with kindness.
Yes, show them that you're a good person.
Here, here. Jamie, you have another question?
Yeah. Wow. Sorry that happened to you, Melissa. I was just like,
Yes.
It's
wow,
okay.
out. Okay. Um, back to technical type of questions. I have a
All
couple of
right.
questions about how long does it take you to write a book, and how do you find the time or make the time to write? How many edits go back and forth, those kind of like
Right.
technical details.
Well, every book is different. I think in a perfect world, I would like 5 to 6 months to write a book. That gives me a chance to get the draft underway and then to go back over it and write a second draft. That's kind of where I fill in the gaps. The comedy starts to emerge, the conflict is more fleshed out. And then I'll take a third pass, really just to kind of clean up the technical writing, to look for typos, to clean it up for my editor. And so after those three passes, those three drafts, it's submitted to my developmental editor. I've had a handful over the years. Currently, it's Linda. It's going to stay Linda. She's going to continue to edit me. And Linda will read it for story content, and we will talk about what's working and what's not, if the pacing is off, if a conflict doesn't ring true, if a character needs to be cut. Sometimes you get your edits back and it says, this book is in great shape. I love it. Let's just tweak a couple, minor things. And that's the best email to get. Sometimes you get a book back and it's like, all right, we have some global restructuring we need to do here. And you think, oh no, this is going to take a lot more time. And so every book is different in that sense, just depending on what that developmental edit requires. Usually, Linda and I will go back and forth 2 times, but whatever that first note is will determine how long I will have the book in my possession. Because if the edits are minor, it might be 2 weeks, but if it's heavy lifting, I might need it for a month to kind of really get it where it needs to be. After that, it goes to a copy editor, and that's usually a pretty quick turnaround time. That's technical stuff. A week or two, and then the proofers get it, and we go from there. I love it when we get a good, 3 weeks to proof. Sometimes it's only 4 or 5 days before we have to get to the printer, and we have to proof really fast. Um, but I say if I could have 5 or 6 months to write a book, that would be ideal. But there have been years where I've put out 3 books a year, and that means I only have 4 months. And there have been times with The Last Lavender Sister, for example, where that book wrote itself. It came out like it just came out of me. It was so nice to not have to be fighting a clock or a deadline. And then there have been others. Dream a Little Dream took a little bit more time for me, and so it's just hard to predict. You hope it goes fast, but and I do think in this new indie world, I think I'll have a little bit more breathing room because the production schedule is less set in stone in advance. I don't write a book and then see it come out, in 8 months. I can see it come out in 2 to 3 months if we were fast enough.
The horrible supermarket boss is called Donald Faber. Is that a coincidental name?
Yeah, no. But for two reasons. It wasn't just, our unfortunate American leader. I don't even like saying his name, but it wasn't even just him. It was him, but it was also, do you remember the guy who was the owner of, was it the Knicks? And he was really like awful and racist. And there was a TV show on recently about him, and he was played by Ed O'Neill. If you guys remember that particular actor, and he was just so unlikable. And that character's name was Donald as well. And I was like, oh, this is just perfect. And so it was just this culmination of these awful Donalds that I knew that this character had to be named that. And I feel like I'm not an author who's influenced very much by actors and actresses. There's only been a handful of times that I've cast an actor or actress in my head. And that was one of them. Ed O'Neill kept coming into my brain when I was writing his lines. I could hear him saying the lines.
You would look awful in a tracksuit.
Yeah.
True. I've got another one from Jodelle. Are you yourself a Zelda fan? And if you are, you will be, well, shot into the stratosphere of her favorite author.
Oh no. Jodelle, how are you? First of all, I haven't seen you since last year. Um, I hate to say this, but I'm not a big Zelda player. I use my friend Nikki, who will be at GCLS, and I will be happy to introduce you to Nikki, and you all can be friends over Zelda. Nikki was my resource for all things Zelda and let me know kind of how he would speak and what he would say about them and the Zelda jokes. But I'm sorry to disappoint. I'll try harder. Minecraft. You want to talk about Minecraft? I have a 7-year-old that's obsessed with it. That's all I see.
Oh, me too. Oh,
Yeah.
I don't get it. No. Um, Jamie, you have another one, or do you want me to continue?
Go ahead.
Okay, because I have two more. Can we do two more, Melissa?
Yeah, yeah. I love it.
Okay. Um, which one of your characters in all of your books is
Mhm.
most like you, and which one is most unlike yourself?
Okay, Brooklyn Campbell from the Soho series is definitely the most like me. Some of her, I didn't have the adoption issue, but most everything else about her clutteredness, the fact that she has all of, 17 different mascaras in one drawer, and the five warnings that she's gotten, the tickets where she's been pulled over, that was me. I got pulled over 5 times in a row and given 5 warnings in a row. And I was driving a bug at the time. So never before have I done that with a character where I've taken so much of my idiosyncrasies, my humor, my way of speaking, my cluttered like lifestyle, and put it into a character. And so that it would definitely be Brooklyn. Who's least like me? Probably like if we stay in the Soho world, a character like Hunter, or Gia, who is just effortlessly cool. I feel like I'm such a dork, that I constantly, can say something awkward, or I'll go in for the hug when someone else is going in for the handshake. Have you ever done that? I do that all the time. So, I'll anticipate wrong. Oh, they're going to go in for the hug, so I'll do the handshake. It never works. But Hunter and Gia and people like that who are kind of cool, and Kyle would be another example of that. I'm just not that cool of a person. So I kind of live vicariously when I get to write those characters who kind of just own the room that they walk into, because I don't.
Do you have like people in your head when you're writing that? Like it's not me, but this person is exactly that?
Sometimes real life people can influence, or a character that I've um encountered before, or an actor or actress, but mainly they just kind of, I'm in the minority when I talk to my author friends that mine are just kind of new to the world. Like I said, there's only been a handful of times where I could say an actor or actress is influenced, or a real life person. It's pretty rare.
Okay. Last question.
Imagination.
Oh,
Okay.
imagination. Yay. Um, in which one of your stories would you want to be a character?
Oh, I want to be in one of the friend groups, please. Um, if I had to pick a friend group, I'd probably go Soho because I don't know about me in a beach town. Oh, wine would be fun though. That would
Tangle
be, but
Valley?
yes, yes. I think I would go with the friend group and I'd put myself in the Soho series if I could. I'd like to be friends with them. I think they would be fun.
Me too. Invite me, please.
Yes, let's go. We're headed to New York.
Yay! Well, we are.
That's true. We are next
Yeah,
month.
definitely.
Mhm.
If if
We'll head to Soho.
if I'm still allowed to enter. Well, depends on the travel
Uh,
bans. Okay.
oh my gosh.
Let's not go there.
We'll stay happy.
Yes, yay. Thank you very much for joining us.
Yay, thank you for
I
having me.
I hope you had fun. I hope everyone here had fun. Um, last thing, where can we find you?
I'm out there on social media. I probably spend my most amount of time on Instagram and TikTok, but I am on Facebook at least daily. I'm on Threads, and I refuse to call it X, but I never did leave Twitter. I refuse to give it to them. So I'm still over there. You can find me in all of those spots. Or an email. You can send me an email. I'll be happy to answer.
Good. And your own website, of course,
Oh,
melissabrayden.com.
my website will direct you to all of those places, melissabrayden.com, and that'll send you to all my social media. If you want more, there's also Patreon. You're welcome to head over and check it out and see if it's something you're interested in.
Great. Well, thank you again for joining us. Thank you, everyone. Let me just say that the next Sapphic World Book Club will be for Anna K. Ren on, oh my God, it's June
28.
28th. It's a Saturday, whatever, for The Wilding of M's Path. So if you haven't read it yet, then this is the time to pick it up and prepare yourself for the next book club. Thank you very much, and I hope you have a great day, and hopefully, maybe
Bye, everybody.
see you in a month.
Thank you, Melissa, and
Yay.
happy Pride, everybody.
Happy Pride!
Happy Pride. Thank you.